So as an Avatar fan, I always assumed that the Fire Nation attacked the west coast of the Earth Kingdom instead of the east coast because of Ba Sing Se. But the Kyoshi novel might have another answer. Hey guys, welcome to a Geek Talk. Today I want to talk about a little bit of something that happened in the Kyoshi novel. If you have not read the book and you don't want to be spoiled, this is the time to get out of here. Otherwise, stick around for my little theory. And yeah, I don't usually do theories, so this is new on this channel. So I'm going to try it out. So in the book of The Rise of the Kyoshi, there is an antagonist character named Jiansu. At the end of the book, he has this conflict with this other character named Hui. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And they're at odds of who can have control over the Avatar. So at the end of the book, Hui comes to Jiansu's estate unannounced and brings basically half of the west coast of the Earth Kingdom, all the sages and all the leaders and all that stuff, with him to basically strong arm his way to get hold of the Avatar. Because in the plot of the book, again, if you have not read it, you shouldn't be watching this, but if you have, you know what I'm talking about. But essentially there's a conflict that comes between these two basically antagonist characters. And the way that Jiansu thinks to solve it, because he has his back to the wall, he has no way of thinking up a better plan, I would say, is to basically just kill everybody. Yes, he decides to kill everybody. Now let me read a few passages from the book. Spirits above, Jiansu thought. Had Hui simply scavenged the entire northwestern coast of the Earth Kingdom for allies? And this is very important because it distinctly says here, northwestern coast of the Earth Kingdom. And we know from The Last Airbender, that's where the Fire Nation primarily did most of their attacks. And that eventually became Republic City, or at least that area became mostly a unified kind of every nation kind of thing going on. But again, that's history shit. Let's continue. It might have been the case. There was no one from Mamashu or Gaoling or Ba Sing Se, where Jiansu's support was the strongest. Hui had handpicked the attendees of this surprise conclave, sages he could influence. Promises and vast sums of money must have flowed like water leading up to today. So what we have here is that we have this Western front basically coming to confront Jiansu about, hey, where's the Avatar? What's going on? You need to tell the truth about where he is, or who she is, because it's Kyoshi, it's not Yoon, the boy. And then Jiansu makes this plan to, hey, I have no options here. I gotta kill all of you. So later in one of the following chapters called The Return, the passage goes like this. The western coast had been decimated of its leadership, especially by the Mosei Sea. Certainly, some of the sages who had drank his poison tea were corrupt and incompetent, but many were as invested in bringing strength and prosperity to the nation as he was. And that right there is what I think is kind of an Easter egg to what leads to why the West Coast was so much more weak than the East Coast. Now, obviously, the West Coast doesn't have Ba Sing Se, it doesn't have 3 outer walls to protect the kingdom. But I still think that this has a large part to do with it, because the Earth Kingdom for ages has been able to thwart and defend against any, oncoming invasion. Until, of course, the Fire Nation came through and just wiped out the whole West Coast and then started trickling into the Central and then getting to Ba Sing Se eventually within The Last Airbender. And the reason for this, I think, this book is trying to tell us is because Jiansu indirectly decimated basically half, or a fifth, as it says in here. I think it says a fifth. Their numbers were surprising. He hadn't realized these many sages fell outside his sphere of influence. Perhaps about a fifth of the most important people in the Earth Kingdom had arrived on his doorstep with hostile intent. A fifth. So I think that actually plays a stepping stone. Now, granted, this is about, 200 years before the Great War and the invasion. So one would think, oh, well, the Earth Kingdom should have been able to rebuild. But it's actually really hard to reestablish a dynasty, especially when you have a fifth of the Earth Kingdom being decimated in one fell swoop. So I do think, it might be a bit of a stretch, and I might just be reading into it a little bit too much, but I do think that Jiansu is indirectly responsible for his kingdom eventually being invaded hundreds of years later. And I like to see that there might be these stepping stones of repercussions from a book like this into the story that we know mostly in The Last Airbender. So again, that's just a theory that I have. I believe that Jiansu is indirectly responsible for why the Western Coast was so weak and why it was that the Fire Nation attacked the West Coast instead of the East Coast, barring Ba Sing Se, is because the West Coast was the weakest point of entry for the Earth Kingdom because of this event in the Kyoshi book. That is it, guys. I'll see you guys on the next one. Let me know what you think about this theory in the comments below. And as always, peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.